Okay, good day, everybody. And today we're continuing our series of consumer arithmetics, wages and salaries, part two of this topic. In part one, we would have addressed the various concepts and definition of key terms in relation to wages and salaries. So if you haven't seen that video, just go back to the yesterday's video. I will try and put a link to that in this one so that you will see the terms that we define that we will use in these videos as the question arise. So as I said yesterday, we defined in the part one, we defined key terms and concepts. Today, it's all about solving problems involving wages and salaries. So we go straight on to it. But first thing first, I must give credit to where credit is due. I usually tend to make all my questions, but this time around, I found it a lot easier to just take some questions wholesale from this textbook that you see here. I must say I'm not sponsored or I was not paid to do this or anything, but the truth is that I took the questions from this book. So that is why I put in this book here. By no means I'm advertising the book. I mean, I don't know much about the book, but the questions were ideal and the questions is what I'm targeting presently. So that is why I took the questions from this book. If you have it, feel free to check in your index. I honestly cannot remember the page, but yes, the questions are wholesale from this text. So please bear that in mind. These questions I did not make on my own. Good. So let's go. Question one here. Clive works for 40 hours a week, for which he is paid $10 per hour. Okay, so that's information we have to digest there, right? So Clive works 40 hours a week and he is paid $10 per hour. Overtime is paid at $12.50. And I know we spoke about overtime last video, but remember what I said. If they don't give you a particular rate of overtime, they usually use a fraction. So it's one and a half, one and a quarter, and double time. In the next question, we're going to see how we address it when given like that. So yes, in this case, they told us how much he's getting. He's getting $12.50 for overtime per hour. So every extra hour he works, he will not be getting $10. Instead, he'll be getting $12.50. So if you work for 40 hours, the most he will get for those 40 hours is $10. But the minute he steps into 41, that extra 41, the extra one in the 40 will earn him $12.50 because from 41 go up, we're dealing with overtime. We need to understand how the overtime does work, right? So that is where the overtime steps in. The minute you cross your regular working hours. Good? Right. So let's go here. What's the question? What is Clive's gross pay if he works 48 hours this week? And again, in the last video, we addressed what is the gross pay. But again, just to show it out again, remember his gross pay will be his sum of money that he earned without any deductions being made. So that's what I want us to calculate here. So let's get on to it. So first of all, we want to know how much he works on a regular week. That's the first thing. So before we go to the overtime, and this one is kind of straightforward because we could see, we know that he works 40 hours a week. So straight away we could tell how much overtime he works if he works 48 hours. So let's do the regular pay first. So his regular pay would be 40 hours, the amount of hours he work, multiplied by $10. That is how much money he getting by the regular working hours. And if we do that, we will see that he would earn, for his regular 40 hours a week at $10 a rate, he would earn $400. So that's always the base. The foundation is always to find out how much he genuinely or honestly working for originally before the overtime. And then we also have to calculate his overtime because he worked overtime. How much hours did he work overtime? Just look at the overtime hours minus the regular hours. So you could say 48 minus 40. I don't know if we have to show that, but I think we could. Well, in this case, we could see it. But in case you cannot see it, just deduct his regular hours from the overtime hours. So if we deduct 48 from 40, we will get the extra hours. And in this case, we could clearly see that he worked for 8 extra hours. And what is the overtime rate? In this case, they didn't give us a rate, they gave us a sum of money, and that is the sum of money here. So for the 8 hours, he didn't work that 8 hours for $10. These 8 hours was work on overtime. So for that 8 hours, he was paid $12.50 for each one of those 8 hours. Yes? And that is how the overtime does work. So as I said, overtime usually tends to pay more. And for these 8 hours, he actually got $100. Unless my calculator is set wrong. Good? So for the 8 extra hours he worked, he gets $100. And think of how, I don't know if we could see the numbers. You see, you have to have number sense to see what I'm about to say here. But still, I will say it anyway. See how the impact of 8 extra hours pretty much gave him quarter. I mean, if you understand what happened here, he literally got quarter of the amount of the money he gets for the week in just working 8 extra hours. And that is usually one of the incentives that you should be aware of. When you work extra time or overtime, you do get a loan sum, you do get paid off. So, and that is usually what incentivizes or what promotes or what encourages workers to go overtime, because you do get a better sum of money. So, under normal conditions, he was working for $10 an hour. Let's look at it like that. But now with the overtime, that 1 hour instead now becomes $12.50. That's a whole $2.50 more. But again, that's just me ranting. I hope you could see where I'm coming from. And what is Clive's gross pay if he works 48 hours this week? Again, we didn't answer the question yet. We just did the math. And his gross pay will obviously be his weekly hours plus his overtime hours. So he would earn a total of $500. Yes? $500. So we could say his gross, and again remember we have to always work it out. His gross, don't mind my writing. His gross was, and I stop my misery there. His gross was $500, right? So at the ending of that particular week where he worked for 48 hours, he got $500. And that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Well, let me see. Was it a week he worked for? Yes, at the ending of this week. So in that 1 week, he got $500. Imagine that month has 4 weeks. Think about it that way. And he just did 8 hours every week. He just did 8 extra hours, just like that. At the ending of that month, he would earn $2,000, just like that. And he could easily go up more if he decided to put more overtime into it, you know. So yes, that's how it works. That's how it works. Good. All right. Let's go to the next question. This one is a very interesting question too. So the basic rate for let me get my highlighter. Good. So the basic rate for a 40-hour week for daily paid workers at the Haddon's company is $11.20 per hour. So this is how much they're getting paid per hour. For 40 hours a week, the regular pay is $11.20 per hour. Overtime is paid at time and a half. So here we have it, how I want to see. Time and a half. Find the number of hours. So here we're calculating the number of hours the person worked. If she had a gross of, and they have A, B, C, D. So that is how much she make. A, B, C, D is how much she make each week or for whatever given week. What we want to find out now is how many hours she worked. And here is like we're just doing the process in reverse. But before we do that, I want us to understand how the time and a half work. As I said in the previous video, overtime is calculated at time and a half, time and a quarter, double time. And that time and a half, time and a quarter, the double time is all in relation to the hour work, per hour work. So if I am working at time and a half, you calculate that by doing time and a half, which is 1.5, multiplied by your regular working hours, which is $11.20. $11.20. Good? If you this is the same as 1.5. Time and a half is 1.5. If you are working at 1.25, it would be your extra hour rate would be 1.25 multiplied by the regular hour that you're supposed to get. That's 11.20. And if you're doing double time, which is the best scenario, you have 2 times your regular working hour, or what you would have been paid for the regular working hour. So that's this here. So let's put this into perspective now. Let us do this calculation here. So for this person here, for every extra hour this person work, it will be 1.5 times 11.2. So if she, well not if, in this case we know the person getting time and a half. So for this person here, every extra hour they work, they would not be making 11.20. Instead, she would be making $16.80. Keep this number in mind. As a matter of fact, let me write it up here because we will need it for this question. So for every extra hour she works, she will be getting $16.80. This one is applicable to this question here because it's time and a half. If this person was getting paid, let's say time and a quarter, so that's 1.25 as a fraction, or you could put time and a quarter if you have a calculator that could put it like that, she would have been getting $14. And I'm just doing this so that you could see how to calculate the overtime rates when not given, when not given as a price. Good? So here, if she was paid a time and a quarter, that's 1.25 or 1.25. And it makes sense, it has to be lower than the original one. And this one is the same as 1.5. So you just multiply the rate by how much the person gets on a normal hour. And double time, well, that speaks for itself. I think I could calculate that off my head. That's supposed to give you what? 22.40. Whoa, this will be the best scenario. If I now get in double time over time, whoo, I push in those hours. Imagine 1 hour alone, I get 22. 2 hours, I get 44. Just like that. Hey, I'm working until night. Right, but that is how overtime works. So if she was being paid at double time, hold on, let me just make sure by the way. 11.2 times 2, yes, it's 22.40. Right. So if she was being paid at these different rates, so we know the rate we're using for this question is this one up here. So that's given. But if she was paid for the other two rates in the future, then you know how to calculate it. You just multiply the rate by how much she usually gets per hour. And that is how you calculate that person overtime rate. Good? Right, so let's erase all this now and get on to the question and see how much hours, who is it? Mrs. Jeffrey worked throughout the various weeks here. I assume it's 4 different weeks we have here. And since the sum of money made each week is not the same, it's evident that each week she worked for a different amount of hours based on the question here, right? Look at A, she had 336, B, so none of the sums here are the same. So let's go with this. So $336. First thing though we need to know also is how much she will make on a regular week. That's a must. So let's put that number on the side too. On a regular week, she would work 40 times 1120. Yes, we need this. So we would know whether she went over or whether she worked under. Because this is the most she would have under normal circumstances. Anything above this will be overtime. Anything less than this, that means that she worked for fewer hours that week. And that will determine whether we need to use the 1120 to determine the hours or whether we need to use the 1680 to determine the extra hours. And I hope that makes sense. So here if I calculate 40 by 11.2, I'm supposed to get $448. And again, let me explain this $448. This $448, we could see that as our baseline. This is our baseline, meaning that if she made this amount of money, or let me put it this way, this is the maximum amount of money she could make if she worked her regular 40 hours in any given week. This is the most she would make, 448. So let's look at it like this. Any amount of money she makes less than 448, we can safely say, obviously she did not do overtime, and we could safely say also she worked less than 40 hours. Those are two things that are given. And on the other hand, if the sum of money is greater than 448, then that tells us, okay, she worked overtime. And then we have to use the 1680 to determine how much hours overtime. And that is just the basis of it. Let's see if we could apply it now. So here we have the first question, A. So in question A here we have $336. 336 is less than 448. That means when she got $336, she did not work overtime. So let's find out how much hours she worked that day then. And to find out that, all we need to do is do a little subtraction. So not even subtraction, we're talking about. We just do a little division. We just divide and we divide by our regular rate. So in this case here we have $336 divided by 1120. And that is how we get to know how much hours she worked this week. So that is 336 divided by 1120. And according to my calculator, this week here, she worked for 30 hours. And that makes sense. We know it will be less than 40 hours because if she worked for 40 hours, she would have made at least this amount. She made less than that. So for number 1 here, she worked for 30 hours. So just make a note there. And that is how you go about solving this set of problems. It might look hard, but it's not really hard. Let's go to the second one. The second one is B here, A, B, C, D. So this one's zigzag. Right, so for B here, she worked for 425 and 60 cents. And again, this here is less than 444. So that means on B here, she also worked for less than 40 hours. So our rate that we're using is this 1120. So here we have 425, 425.60 divided, well, you could put it 0 if you want, but it's not a must, divided by 1120 also. And 1120 because she did not exceed, she did not go over time. So that's how much we have to calculate there. And according to my calculator, 425.6 divided by 11.2, in this week here, she worked for 38 hours. And that kind of makes sense too, because you could see that it's very close to 425 is very close to 442. In fact, we could see if you just add twice this, we will end up with the same amount of money. Yeah, pretty much. Just add 2240 to this, and we'll end up with 240. Well, and how did I get 2240? Because it's 2 more hours. Look at it here. It's 38 hours she worked, 2 more hours before it becomes 40. And in other words, it's 2 more hours before she made 448. I don't know. I hope I'm not talking abstract maths here, but I hope you could see what I'm saying. If not, again, feel free to ask in the comment section before. I will gladly re-explain it or look even at a simpler example. Right now, I am using analysis here too, so I know that's a level of maths thinking that it's not, what should I say, on the objective low level sort of. But yeah, don't worry, don't feel no harm. Right. And C and D are my favorite parts because here now we exceed. So notice here now, if we work for 40 hours, remember, the most we could make is 448. Here we make 464. So we know that we did overtime here. Some serious, well, not some serious overtime, but we did more than 40 hours. So first of all, we need to know the difference. And then we could do our division. So when we take away the 448, we also finding out we pretty much taking away the 40 hours working time, right? So here we have to do 2 sets of maths. So it's 464.8 minus, so I have to take away my 40 hours. I take away my 40 hours from that, and that's a 0 there. Take away that. Let's do this without calculator. So the 8 comes down, my point remains there. I have to do a little borrowing here. So 6 becomes 5 and 4 becomes 14. And then this here becomes 6. Then this becomes 1 and 4 cancels 4. Right. So our answer here is $16.80. And here what now? That number is very, very, very familiar to us. Look at this 1640 over here too. So we have this here and we have this here. And we found out earlier that this is the rate for every extra hour. So it is safe to say, since the difference is only 1608, that this salary here was received after she only put in 1 extra hour of work. So the answer here is 41 hours. I mean, I could go about and divide, but that makes no sense. I will get 1. If you divide 1608 by 1608, you divide by 1680, you will get 1. And just to explain it still, so after you get the difference in the overtime hours, then you divide the sum that you get here by the overtime rate and not the regular rate. So you're using the overtime rate instead. But as I said here, since the overtime rate is the exact 1680, we know that she worked exactly 1 extra hour. So no need to go and do that calculation there, right? And For the last one, again, we follow the same procedure because here she obviously worked overtime too and much more than 41 hours too, because from 464, she's now here at 582. So let's find out what's the difference first. So that's 582.40, and I take away that from 48, 448. No hurry. And again, let's do this without calculator. Let's do it without calculator. We could do subtraction without calculators, right? So the 0 comes down, the 4 comes down, the point comes down. Here we have to do a little borrowing. So the 8 becomes 7 and the 2 becomes 12. And now we have 8 from 12, that will be 4. Here we have 3, 4 from 7, and here we have 1. Nice. So here, this week, she actually got $438 in extra. So this year now, this is the amount of money she made overtime. If I want to know how much hours are in this amount of money here, I have to divide that by the overtime rate, because we take away already the regular hours. So this is the overtime. And the overtime now, you calculate that. So that's 134.40, and we divide it now by the overtime rate, not the regular hours. That amount of money she made on overtime, and the overtime rate we know is an hour and a quarter. Sorry, time and a half, not time and a quarter. Time and a half. So if I divide this, and I'll use my calculator here, 134.4, yes, 134.4 divided by 16.8, and that gives me, according to my calculator here, exactly 8 hours. But notice that 8 hours is overtime. So how much did she work this week? The 40 hours here and the overtime here, that would give us 48 hours. Very nice question. Very nice question. Hope we understand what happened here. If you don't understand it, listen to it again. Maybe that will help. Or maybe there's definitely probably another YouTube video that you can go to and maybe get a different way of explanation. Or again, in the comment section below, put up a comment, I don't know, and I could always find you, or you could locate me and we could go through this one-on-one or over if it's not clear to you. I know I've said a lot, and for all I know, I'm all over the place, but I hope it makes sense for you. So we have one more question after this. Yes, this video is pretty lengthy, but bear with me. One more question after this, and that is the last one. And we have commission here. Yes, we have to throw in a commission question in. So a car salesman is paid 2.5% commission. And remember what I said in the last video. The commission is either a sum of money or you could get it as a percentage. 2.5% commission on the value of each car he sells. So in this company here now, the salesman, anytime he sells a car to somebody, or he was the person that was the instrumental one in getting a certain vehicle sale or any vehicle sale, he would get 2.5% commission. That is our sum that he would be getting, and that is aside, I assume, from his salary. His salary will be fixed, but it will be added to the commission if he gets us a car sold. And I'm saying assuming because I wouldn't want to believe the case is that if you don't sell a car, you don't get paid. I don't want to think that's the case. But that's an incentive to make sure when somebody come, man, you put your best foot forward and see how you could get this person to buy the car, even if they don't feel to buy the car. And believe me, that is a skill, eh? That's a skill. Right, so let's go. So yes, that person rate is 2.5% and for the value of each car sold. And here we have the question. His commission if he sells 5 cars for $280 in a month. Okay, so we have to calculate what will be his commission if he sells 5 cars. Well, this man is doing very well. If he sells 5 cars for $280,000 in the month. So in that 1 month, he sold 5 cars. Wow. I was thinking it would be hard alone to sell 1. Alright, good. Although this is a makeup question, I would think. Right. But no, this might be possible. I don't know. I don't know what these companies does what they do when it comes to selling vehicles. So all we need to do here basically is find out what is 5% of this sum of money here. Sorry, 2.5%, and then we just multiply that by 5 because apparently these 5 cars they sold were all at that price. So simple maths. So 2.5, we could see this as a percentage question. So 2.5 divided by 100 multiplied by 280,000. So this will tell us how much commission he received. Where's my calculator? If I do this, 2.5 divided by 100 times 280,000. According to my calculator, this will give me a sum of 7,000. Wow, that's not bad at all. You're already getting more than what I get for just selling one car. Life is so not fair. Right. So he gets $7,000 for one car at $280,000. But of course, he didn't sell one. He sold 5 of those cars. So then his sum of money would be 7,000. My goodness, this is good. Well, I guess vehicles are expensive, right? 7,000 times 5. And if my math serves me well, I don't need a calculator for this one. This should be 35,000. Wow. In that month alone. This is good. This is good business, man. I should become a car salesperson. I have good people relationship skills. I think. So yes, that month he actually made $35,000 on selling those 5 vehicles only on commission. Imagine, this is only on commission. This will be added to his salary. Whatever his salary is, this will be added to his salary. Good? And let's go. And then part B, so this is part A. And of course, you have to remember to state your answer. So his commission, what would be his commission if he sells 5 cars for $280 in a month? His commission would be $35,000 at the ending of the month for selling those 5 cars. Yes, please state your answer. Remember, because of my writing, I'm saving myself that trouble. My writing is very squiggly, it's almost like if I'm shaking while I'm writing. But it's the device that I'm using, don't worry, it will fix it. Right. And his gross salary for that month, if his annual salary was 30,000. Okay, okay. So here we go, know how much he's getting. So his annual salary is 30,000. The question asks us to find out what is his gross salary for that month if his annual salary is 35,000. So sorry, 30,000. So remember what we said is annual. We had annually, we had annual, we had per annum. They're all the same. So that means every year, the sum of money that he makes is 30,000. So if we want to know how much he's making every month, all we need to do is divide that 30,000. So at the end of the year, he's getting 30,000. So divide that 30,000 by 12, because there is 12 months in a year. And if we do that, we would know how much money he's making every month. And when I do that, his monthly salary flimsy, man. So I guess it really dependent on the sales that he make to make a loan. So good. So 30,000 that ends up being $2,500. Well, let me just say flimsy. This could be a loan sum for some person, right? So $2,500. That is how much he makes on a monthly basis. But in this particular month, the question asks us, what is his gross salary for that month if he had an annual salary of this? So if with the annual salary of this will be his monthly salary, 2,500. And the month where he sold 5 vehicles, you just have to add that to that amount. And that month, he would have made a sum of $37,500. How did I get that? I add 2,500 with 35,000 because this happened in a particular month. So that month he made his usual salary of $2,500, but he also made $35,000 on commission for selling 5 vehicles at $280,000 at a 2.5% commission rate. Hope that makes sense to you. So again, you have to state your answer. His gross salary for that month was $37,500 after adding commission and his monthly salary. And that's a good amount of money to make on a monthly basis. I envy him. Good. That's how much. Well, that month alone, he made how much he made much more than what he would make on an average year if he did not sell a single vehicle, that is, right? So that brings us to the end of today's video. Yes, it was a pretty lengthy one, half an hour, but you can always skip to the main parts, of course, where you see the solving of the question. So we're going to wrap it up there for today. And again, as always, again, share, subscribe, like, view, so that you can keep in tune. In our next video, tomorrow, God willing, we're going into the penultimate topic, simple interest, and then we wrap it up with compound interest. Until then, you take care.